the concept of chanting the Buddha name, chanting Amitabha Buddha, it's more analogous to the ordinary concept of heaven, of going to heaven. But it's not the same, of course. It's close to the concept of being born in heaven again after we passed away. In the Theravada approach, they don't practice this. They don't practice chanting of Amitabha Buddha. But in the Mahayana approach, it's been repeated again and again in many sutras that there is such a practice. And this practice, basically practice on the divine path of enlightenment, basically you have two ways, broadly speaking. One is self-efforts. The other is combination of self-efforts and other efforts. And other efforts, of course, include the Buddha's help, the Bodhisattva's help. So if you are in the self-efforts of practice, then you have to go through a long time. You have to do a lot of meditation. You have to go through observing the precepts, going into samadhi, practicing vipassana until you get to be enlightened. So there are, under the self-efforts, there are two approaches. One is the Sravaka, the other is the Pratyeka Buddha. Sravaka is further divided into the four levels. The first is Sotapanna, and the second is Sakritagamin, the third is Anagamin, the fourth is Arhats. Now, if you practice the Stravaka's approach, generally speaking, it takes 3 lifetimes or 60 kalpas. Very long time. 1 kalpa is billions of years. So in other words, it takes a very long time for you to attain arahatship. In the Theravada approach, being an arahat is the Buddha, because an arahat is already away from reincarnation, away from life and death, enlightened. Sotapanna is the first level, which requires you to come back to this world of desire another 7 times for further practice. You have to be reborn again 7 times, but you won't go to the vicious rams. The 6 rams of reincarnation, you don't go to the vicious rams, but you come back again 7 times generally. For the second level of Sakritagamin, you come back 1 time, and then you continue to practice to become the Arahat. For the Anagamin, you don't come back to this world of desire. You go to Rupadhatu, another world in which there is no sensual desires. So it takes a long time for Stravakas. And Pratyeka Buddha, it takes 4 lifetimes or 100 kalpas, also a long time. So on the other hand, the Amitabha approach, you rely also on the help of Amitabha. You train yourself to recite that name. So at the verge of death, you are not confused. You're not in extreme physical suffering. So you still can concentrate into the Amitabha's name. You've been contemplating Amitabha's name. After you died, because you link up with, sometimes we use the word frequency to give an example. Your mind radio has been so much tuned to the universal grand radio station of Amitabha that at the juncture of death, zoom, you go there. You will go over to the land of bliss, the Pure Land, where Amitabha is, and you continue your practice in there. But the difference between practicing in here and practicing in the Pure Land, Amitabha's land, is in there, no retrogression. In other words, you won't reincarnate into the 6 paths of reincarnation anymore. You don't retrogress to the sensual world anymore. You are in there, you register in that land where you, without retrogression, continue to progress and progress and progress under the patronage of Amitabha Buddha, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Mahasprapta Bodhisattva, until you become enlightened. Why is such a convenience? Because Amitabha, many kalpas ago, make a vow, because Amitabha Buddha knew that as time goes on, it's very difficult for sentient beings to achieve enlightenment in one's lifetime, which is very obvious. Imagine how busy everybody is. In the ancient days, 24 hours, those practitioners, they practice for at least half a day, which is 12 hours. They're always in meditation. And now, how much time you spend on training yourself in meditation, in samadhi and vipassana? If you can spare 2 hours per day of meditation, you're already it's already a rare opportunity. And even monks sometimes, they're so busy with the temple work that they may not even have time to meditate for 2 hours, because they're so busy in passing the message to the world about Buddhism, promoting Buddhism, temples work, temples chores, and the learning and everything, then they may not have enough time. If they have 2 hours per day consistently for a number of years, then that would be very resourceful already. So given that you have the busyness of people's life is getting more and more serious, more and more busy, and where do you get the time for enlightenment? Where do you get the time to practice meditation? And also given all these seductive attractions outside on your sensual pleasures, all the material wants you want to satisfy, and all the intricacies of mental afflictions at home, on website, on work site, and the international relationships, family relationships, human relationships, all these mental afflictions boil together. You are like in a kettle being boiled. You're like in a prison of mental afflictions. You are in a cocoon of intricacies of mental afflictions that you don't have time for practice. The Buddha already perceived that. So Amitabha Buddha make a vow that any sentient being at the juncture of death, if they practice so much that they get tuned up with the mind-to-mind transmission, then they won't reincarnate into any realms. They would be reborn in that land of bliss. And the Sakyamuni Buddha one day gave a lecture to unravel the vow and such a land to all sentient beings so that they know about it. Because sentient beings, they don't know that there's another world called the Pure Land, Sukhavati Vyuha. So the Sakyamuni Buddha revealed this to sentient beings and narrated a magnificent display of such a land. How does that land look like? What is the location of that land? How do you qualify yourself in going to that land after you die? In the smaller Sukhavati Vyuha, it's a broad generalization. But there are other sutras, for example, the Sutra of the visualizing of the Buddha of immeasurable length of life is more in details. But this smaller Sukhavati Vyuha is a short version of the longer version. You have to be aware of such a world, of such a location where one can go to after one dies. Because what's the danger if you do not go to that land and you're reborn again in many other realms? You're reborn into other realms, you lost yourself already. Because you could reincarnate into the vicious realms. Remember, there's 6 realms of reincarnations. The 3 vicious ones and the 3 non-vicious ones. The 3 non-vicious one is animal realm, ghost realm, and the hell realm. And most people go to these 3 vicious realms. Now there are another more benevolent realms, the human realms, Asura's realm, and heavenly being realms. So this is a very important concept, because how can you guarantee that you will be successfully getting enlightenment in this lifetime that detach you from reincarnation. You go into life and death, in the ocean of life and death, and again and again and again. Keep on rolling. You may be doing good deeds in this life, and the next life will be better for you. And your next life, because you are richer, sometimes you may be ignorant, so ignorant that you do foolish deeds and vicious deeds, then you roll into the three vicious realms again. So we are all in the chain of life and death. So this is absolutely important that we know about this practice. And that's the reason why I introduce it to you. It's not in the Theravada that I know of, but it is in the Mahayana approach. On page 3, the Indra or king of Deva, and with Brahman Sahampati, with these and many other 100,000 Nayutas of sons of the gods. So we've been talking about Devas, gods, heavens. People say we believe in the gods. The God is the creator, but Sakyamuni Buddha said there are so many gods. There are so many heavens, and heaven is not the ultimate way to go, because if you still carry yourself with karma, you will be born in heaven, and after you enjoy the happiness in heaven, then you roll back to reincarnation again. It's not the ultimate complete place that we should go to. Of course, it's better to be in heaven than in hell. So in order to understand more about it, we have to know where we are. And this could be a revision for people who already have understood the concept. Where are we now? What is our positioning? Ascension beings, where are we in this world? How does the world look like? How many levels of the world, and what are the ascension beings in those worlds? So this is what I'm going to put in for this lecture. So remember, we are in a 3-level world. The Kama Dhatu, Arupa Dhatu, and Arupa Dhatu. Kama Dhatu is also called Loka, L-O-K-A. Loka, it's world, a location, a grand, massive location. So Kama Dhatu, Kama is desire realm. We are in the desire realm. We are in Kama Dhatu, desires realm. Kama Dhatu is the lowest realm. And above us, there's another realm, which is called Rupa Dhatu. Rupa, that means matter or form. In Kama Dhatu, all sentient beings who stay in Kama Dhatu, the 6 paths of reincarnations, they all are striving for, looking for, or involved in sensual pleasures. We all like sensual pleasures, desires. We want to satisfy our desires. Our desire for wealth, our desires for fame and reputation. In other words, our desire to satisfy our sensual pleasures. And we think the sensual pleasures are normal. We think the sensual pleasures are good. And there's a Greek philosopher, Epicurus. So that's the reason why we always say this world is an Epicurean world. We're looking for satisfaction. Our happiness, we think our happiness lies in satisfaction of our sensual pleasures. Of course, that is mistaken. And we have already talked about it, why that is a mistaken concept that in sensual pleasures. Because sensual pleasures would lead you into many mental afflictions. You may have the temporary physical pleasures because of the stimulation of your senses. You want sexual pleasures, or pleasures for food, pleasures for tasting food, pleasures for the touch, pleasures for hearing the music, pleasures for the fragrance. Our senses are attached to all these. We are in that kind of a world. And we thought that's normal. We thought that is good. We always think that a relationship between a man and a woman, it's highly acceptable, it's normal, it's pleasurable, it's love and all that. The Buddha said that arises from ignorance. And of course, the Buddha went into a lot of details, A lot of details explaining that. Why we're ignorant about that. And that's the reason why we're in the Karma Dhatu. And there are sentient beings who are above us, who are in the Rupa Dhatu. And these sentient beings, when we look at them, of course, we call them guardian angels. We call them angels, billions of guardian angels. And they don't have sensual pleasures. They don't need sensual pleasures. They don't need to satisfy sensual pleasures. We are in a much higher level of wisdom, a much higher level of meditative state. And they don't have desires, sensual desires anymore, but they still have a body. They still have form. In this world, we have both form and desires. In that level, they eliminate all the desires. They feel extremely happy. We don't have happiness because we relate our happiness to physical stimulation of senses. And that's the reason why many people say you have a lot of money, you have a lot of relationship, but that won't make you happy, because happiness comes from the mentality and not from the physical. It's from the mental. So in Rupa Dhatu, the happiness is all mental satisfaction, mental happiness. There's no desires anymore. And those are the sentient beings who enjoy longevity of life. They enjoy life for millions of years. We only live for 100 years. But those guardian angels, or whatever you call them, what name, doesn't matter what name you give them, the devas, they're called devas, or gods. They live for millions of years. But they still die. When they die, they roll into the 6 paths of reincarnation again. And there's a higher level, which is Arupa Dhatu. Rupa is matter. When you put an A in there in the Sanskrit language, it's just the opposite of it. That means, or none. That means none. That means no matter, no form. Even the form, you eliminate the form. When you have a form, when you still have material, when you still are in physical form, you're still suffering. In there, you only have the consciousness left. And that consciousness is always in consciousness satisfaction, happiness. Happiness comes from the mind, not from the physical, not from matter, not from materials. So in that level, Arupa Dhatu is the highest realm. But even though in these 3 realms, sentient beings in these 3 realms still have to go through reincarnation. And let's take a look at the next slide. Get back to the Karma Dhatu realm, world with form and desires. There are 6 heavens in there, just in these realms. Their time concept is different from us. For example, in the lowest heaven, the first heaven, our first heaven is called Chatu Maharaja Kayika. This is the Sanskrit. 四天王天. 1 day and night there is equivalent to 50 years in our time dimensions. Their day and night is equivalent to our 50 years. So if you multiply 50 years by 365 days, so that's thousands of days already. So in the second level, Trayastrimsaha, 倒立天, 1 day and 1 night is equivalent to 100 years in our time dimensions. So in the third heaven, Yama Devaloka, 1 day and 1 night is equivalent to 200 years of our time. In the fourth heaven, Tujita heaven, Dao Shui Tian, 1 day and 1 night is equivalent to 400 years. In Niyamana Rataya, 1 day and 1 night is equivalent to 800 years. And the highest one, Paraniyamita Vasa Vatinaha, it's equivalent to 1,600 years of our lifetime. So different locations have different time dimensions. And are we not all amazed at what the wisdom of the Buddha in perceiving all this? Time dimensions in the whole galaxy in different locations are different. Not to say the complication of all these heavens. Just between, for example, Asia and North America, Between Hong Kong and Canada, we have 16 hours of difference. They are ahead of us by 16 hours. And if these places are so millions and millions of miles away, of course, their time is different from our time. In Hong Kong, they're already Sunday, but we're falling behind with Saturday. So sometimes I imagine if you invent a bullet that's a higher speed, and you go to one of those heavens, so when you go there, maybe when you just arrive in here, thousands of years have already passed. When you come back, I don't know if you can see your mom and dad anymore, because it's thousands of years. So you got 6 heavens, and then in this Kamadhatu, of course, there's humans, the 6 paths of reincarnations, devas, asuras, humans, animals, ghosts, and hell. The 6 paths. When a person dies, when a sentient being dies, they reincarnate in the 6 paths. Who determined where you should go? Is it God? God said you got to go to hell. God said you have to be an animal. God said you have to be human. Is it determined by God? No. Determined by yourself. What did you do? You build up your karma. You build up your own destiny. Nobody can rule you. You build up your destiny to go to the hell realm because of what you have done. You build up your destiny of becoming an animal or because of your deeds, not created by God, not because of God. God won't give you the dictation. God won't put you in hell. God is so nice. How can God put you to hell? God is so nice. How can God put you to be an animal? You will say, God is testing me out. Why go through the trouble of testing? So you better be careful of what you've done. Everything you've done, every thought counts. Have you accumulated enough thoughts to go into the heaven realm? Or have you accumulated enough bad thoughts for your next life to go down to hell? You know, because you have done all these. Okay, so that's the Kamadhatu. We're always in that reincarnation. And what would qualify you, what would make you going to heaven? Or if I want to go to heaven, what should I do? If you want to go to heaven, you have to practice the 10 deeds. In other words, if you do these 10 deeds, you'll go to heaven. What are these 10 deeds? I'll tell you later, in the later slide. But just remember, in this 6 heavens, the guardian angels, or we call them guardian angels sometimes, these guardian angels, they have supernatural power. If they want, they can see us, but we cannot see them. In other words, they are at a much higher level that they can see us and we can't see them. Because we're not at that level. We're at the lower level. A higher level can see the lower level, but the lower level cannot see the higher level. All these people who were reborn in the 6 heavens, they have done these 10 deeds, but they haven't done one thing. If they have done that thing, they won't be in this realm. They would be in the Rupadhatu, which is the higher realm. What haven't they done? They have not meditated. Because if they've done the 10 deeds plus meditation, you go to a higher realm. That is the Rupadhatu realm. They didn't practice meditation. They only practiced good deeds. So you see the importance of practicing meditation? Okay, the next slide. Then the Rupadhatu, the higher level up, you have the 1st heaven, 2nd heaven, 3rd heaven, and 4th heaven. We call it first dhyana. In the Pali language, it's not called dhyana. Dhyana is Sanskrit. In the Pali language, it's jhana. The 1st jhana, 2nd jhana, 3rd jhana, 4th jhana. If you practice the 10 good deeds plus meditation, when we say meditation, it's not just practicing for 5 minutes per day. No, you have done meditation up to a certain level. You have done meditation up to the 1st jhana level. Then you will be reborn in 1st jhana. You have done meditation up to the second jhana level, you will be reborn as a second jhana sentient being, third jhana, fourth jhana. Now in the Rupa Dhatu, they transcend sensual desires. It's pure materiality. And they don't need food. We need food. We eat a lot of food, and then we excrete this food, and the food becomes dirty and not. They don't need that. To them, light is food and language. When we say light is energy. So in other words, they are always in happiness, mental happiness, and they don't need to work like us. We need to go to work, we need to go work under pleasure, we get unemployed, and then we have to go through a lot of relationships and working, we're all involved in mental afflictions doing work. No, they don't have to go work. I mean, they naturally, spontaneously, they have satisfaction. They don't need to eat, they don't need to eat food like us. They don't need to excrete, no more excretion. So that's the heaven. This heaven is even higher than the 6 heavens in Kamadhatu. A higher level is Arupa Dhatu. Arupa Dhatu, even the forms don't exist. They don't have a body anymore. They only have consciousness left, in extreme happiness. So you have to be in a higher level of jhana. You have a higher level of meditative state before you were born in there. The heaven of endlessness of space, the heaven of endlessness of mind, the heaven of nothingness, the heaven of neither consciousness or unconsciousness state. Well, we need to explain that in full detail. But these are the 3 realms, a Rupa Dhatu realm. Now, what are the 10 good deeds? Let's just go through it very quickly. If you want, say, I want to be reborn in heaven. Good. If you want to be reborn in heaven, you really have to do continuously, conscientiously, these 10 good deeds when you are alive. Quit killing. Second is quit stealing. I quote this from the sutras, the 10 Good Karma Sutra. Quit killing, quit stealing, quit sexual misconduct. The 4th, quit false speech, no lying, no fabrication. The 5th, quit divisive speech. In other words, speech that would divide people, speech that is dishonest. One fact, to Mr. A, you talk about this. To Mr. B, you talk about something different, but the fact is just one. 6, quit abusive speech, cursing. People curse all the time. Watch your road manners when you're driving. Quit suggestive speech, which means flattery, to cajole people, or sometimes in your using your language to seduce people. Seductive language, language that involves sultry. Quit greed. That is a very general concept. You're greedy. You're always greedy for things. You don't want to give out. And then quit anger. Quit wrong views. Wrong views include so many things. Now, if you get into Google, you can get the 10 good karmas, then you get the details. Try to know all these so that you know what are the 10 practices. If you practice these 10 good karmas conscientiously, consistently and continuously, then you'll be reborn in those 6 heavens. You'll be a heavenly beings. If you do your meditation also, you may qualify to go to the first jhana. So at the same time you're practicing meditation and you reach that first jhana or second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, you are in a much higher level. Okay, so this is the whole world. If you qualify, if you've been doing the 10 good karmas, then you go to heavens. If you're doing the 10 good karmas plus a lot of meditation that qualify you in the first, second, third, fourth jhana, then you go to Rupa Dhatu. If you're at a much higher level, you go to Arupa Dhatu. Now, if you're like the Buddha, at a higher level than the highest in the Arupa Dhatu, you get out from these 3 realms. No more life and death, because all sentient beings within these 3 realms, does not matter who you are, you have done a lot of good deeds, a lot of meditation, you're still in life and death. The Buddha has already got out from there. The Arahats have already detached from ocean of life and death. And next time I'm going to continue about a revelation of the magnificent display of this pure land, of this land of happiness. And unless you think that I'll be successfully doing my meditation and enlightenment, that I'll be an arahat in this life, I can be a Sotapana. Right now, I'm the teacher. But in that land, the Buddha is your teacher. Imagine if you have the Buddha as your teacher, and all these bodhisattvas, Guan Pusa, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Mantris Bodhisattva, you have all these professors, you have all these, even arahats are there. Some arahats, they went to that land to teach. They could be tutors, they could be assistant professors. In there, they're teaching until people become the Buddha. And they are learning to become the Buddha too. Go to that land where there's no suffering. If you are in this land, you are still in suffering. So why not practice both meditation and chanting of the Buddha's name, so that your mind radio is all tuned to the mind, to the universal grand station of Amitabha and Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. At the juncture of death, you're not going anywhere. You're going to that land of happiness, that land without suffering. And tell your friends, your relatives, tell your beloved ones, tell people who are in senior homes, continue to chant. Tell senior people they can't practice meditation anymore. They can't cross the lakes anymore. And they're tired, they get into drowsiness. Just concentrate in that name. You still need that training. You still need that training that at your juncture of death, you're so concentrated that you go to that land.